Hello, Silvia.
Hello.
Hi, nice to see you. And thank you for being my
you.
guest today. So Silvia is one of the most dedicated mastermind members. How have you been liking mastermind? Maybe just a short overview of that group, if you would like to share.
Oh, such an amazing group. We had such nice conversations all the time. But really, if I must say, the last one we had last Wednesday was really one of my favorites. Absolutely.
Oh, really?
Where we discussed the compromise. Yes, that was a very good discussion.
Yeah, it was a big one, like, and
Yes.
all the notes as well. It was like writing and writing and writing. All right. So Silvia, who is Silvia? Let us know, like, tell the group, who are you? If you can introduce yourself, please.
Well, as a start, I am originally from Portugal, born in Portugal, lived in Portugal for about 33 years until my husband and I decided to move to Switzerland because I got a job opportunity in Switzerland. And we've been living in Switzerland for about 10 years, my husband and I. And so far it has been quite an adventure, and it has been, of course, definitely one of our most really biggest decisions in life, to move to a different country and by ourselves, just by ourselves, and adapting to a new country and culture and everything. But it has been very rewarding experience. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, moving from a Mediterranean country then to Switzerland, which is a bit of a different mentality, right? So how did you find that overall experience? It's a big decision, what you said, right? Moving to another country. So tell us more about that.
Yes, well, in the beginning, it was mostly, of course, it was for professional reasons. We had a couple of friends of mine. They said that there were quite some interesting job opportunities in Switzerland from our area, which is I work in finance. So I started thinking, okay, why not? Let's see what is there. And at least I already have those friends who are living in Switzerland, so maybe they could give me some tips already, some kind of support, so to say. And yes, then I was lucky to get the job and moved to Switzerland from Portugal. And for me and for my husband as well, it was quite a challenge, because none of us with no international experience whatsoever, we just decided to take the step, take the jump, and let's just throw ourselves out there.
I love that. And
take the risk. Yes. And we took the risk, and now after almost 10 years within a different country, different culture, different weather, which for me sometimes it's challenging, but yes, there are some things that I completely realize, some things that went really well overall, but other things that I learned that I could have handled much better, and I could have been much better prepared before I give this jump. I realized if I had prepared myself better and gathered more support, a bigger support network, perhaps some things wouldn't need to be so challenging.
All right. Okay. So when you say, I mean, in terms of network, obviously support of other people, right? But when you better prepared, what else could you have done better, maybe?
Speaking more with people, having more conversations, to really go deeper, to try to understand the culture and the reason of why people do what they do within this culture. Now I understand it, but it's after a few years. Yes. With more support, it could have happened sooner, I think.
Okay. All right. So like, so how was it, right? Like when you moved to Switzerland, was it that you weren't really hanging out, or you didn't feel comfortable, or you didn't like you know, what stopped you, so to say, maybe from being more around people and networking more and gaining more information?
It was more, how to say, you know, Switzerland, it's also a little different from Portugal. In Portugal, after work, you go out for coffee or you go out at night. There is a lot more, more activity outside of work, whereas in Switzerland, it is quite more planned activities.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yes. So what we did, I followed with, well, my job was and still is quite demanding. I work normally 9 to 6, but sometimes I have to do overtime. And then sometimes after work, I enjoyed going to the gym. If it's summer, I enjoy going to the river or to the swimming pool or something like that.
Yeah.
Then I come home and go to sleep. On the weekends, yes, sometimes we would go out, socialize, and be a little with people, but perhaps not so much.
So that part of socializing, right? Like doing something after work, right? It's more like work, home, or now it's
work,
like
home, and socializing with the friends we already have. Okay, we socialize, okay, online, of course. But yes, we kept that socialization, and of course we went to Portugal, visit the family 2 to 3 times per year. But perhaps if we invest more to really get to know local people.
That's a very good point, right? Because I mean, obviously, more you kind of, how do you say, incorporate yourself into
yes.
the right into the culture, and more you talk to the locals, more you understand about the country better, you understand the mentality. I mean, of course, right?
Exactly.
So maybe on that note, what would be your advice specifically about that, or maybe some tips how you could do it for someone who is, let's say, thinking of moving to another country, or someone who has just moved to another country?
Yes. And some other thing which I may add, and of course it is important to learn the language. And at this point, I still must say that my German and even my Swiss German is far from perfect, because it's quite challenging. The language itself, it's a little challenging for me. I'm good with French and Italian or Spanish, but German is a little more challenging. And it's quite important if here in Switzerland, and of course, depending on the country that you move, but here in Switzerland, I find it's quite important that you speak the local language. Because not everybody, most of them, yes, they know English and speak English or other languages, but it is more welcoming to you if you speak the local language. Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you know that.
Or if you try, yes, if they see you are making effort, they will help you. Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want to say. I mean, you know that I used to live in Switzerland. I lived there for like 5 and something years, and exactly what you're saying, I also noticed when you're approaching just with English, they are like a bit sometimes even reluctant to kind of help or support. But if you show that you're like, hey, I speak German, or I'm trying
a little, exactly, you are trying. Yes.
Yeah, it shows respect really as well towards right, the country and the culture and the language and so on and so on.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Do you think that now, like, when, just out of curiosity, right, looking back, do you think you would have done the same? Do you think you would have again like moved to Switzerland?
Oh, absolutely, yes, 100%. Yeah. That I would, but there are some things I would have done differently. Absolutely, yes.
So then, apart from right, like investing more in getting to know locals and the language, what else would you say was a big learning for you that you would again do differently?
Yes. Also, yes, it's interconnected with that. It's really about getting to know your audience. Understand who you are speaking to, understand the person, and maybe how they view things. Because in my case, I have a very direct style of speaking. And another challenging I face is that here in Switzerland, the communication style is not so direct. And if you add that to difficulties with the language, then you have a cocktail of struggle.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, you know, I like on that note, just to share quickly. So I used to work in recruitment in Switzerland, right?
Yes.
And, you know, recruitment is a lot about, obviously, you call companies, you're presenting their services, etc. You know, and when I, anyway, like, and when I was working, sometimes the company would tell you no in such a nice way, right? What you're saying, right? We would be maybe more straightforward with Mediterranean people, like no, you know, or no, thank you. But they would tell it in such a nice way that you would be like, wow, you know, you don't even feel this kind of no, right? You don't even know what happened. So I understand what you mean, though.
Yes.
I understand what you mean, though.
In my case, it was even more trying. Really, sometimes I found myself in situations I wasn't understanding what people were saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if we were speaking in English,
yeah,
but which I consider okay. I consider to have quite good English, but then again, it's not my native language, and it was not my colleagues or the people who was speaking with. It was not native language.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it was difficult to understand exactly what they meant.
Mm-hmm. To be aware of these language barriers, potential language barriers, right?
Yes.
The context also of kind of what's been said and what's been meant.
Exactly.
So
and also these unwritten rules that you don't and this I realize, and I have to, how we say in Portugal, I have to give my arm, I have to surrender, how you to say, I have to surrender to to this reality that if you don't communicate and if you don't speak to people, you don't realize, or it's difficult to learn these unwritten rules.
Yeah. Definitely, right? And that's why, again, also, especially at the beginning of certain relationships in general, it's better to maybe kind of repeat yourself twice, you know, or to ask, like, do you understand, or you know, just to avoid these kind of misunderstandings, rather than assume and then somebody might be offended.
Exactly. Yes. And what I found about that is, yes, on that part, then again, we know we're Mediterranean, very direct people, and I don't have problems speaking about myself. Okay, I like this, I am this person, I like this is what I enjoy. I don't have a problem with that, and to opening myself up. But then I realized that from the other side, this wasn't happening. Or it was happened, but I didn't realize because it was so subtle that I could not pick the hints, you know.
Yeah, and that is the beauty of, right, like, being in an international environment and surrounded by also different cultures, because we learn so much from each other, and we can really see, you know, how different people are used to different things. And again, there is nothing about you're right, I'm wrong. It's just
exactly
different, and let's learn and like enrich each other. Really, that's the beauty of it all, right? It's
yes, it is possible to reach to each other, absolutely. But I find that sometimes, and I know maybe this is something that not everybody likes to hear as we move on to a global world, etc., especially in the world of corporate. Yes, now we're global. But in my opinion and from my experience, there comes a point when we hit certain type of core differences that if you want to go deeper in the relationship, it's gonna stop there.
Okay.
The connection with the people. Because there are values that are our own, and these are our values, and the person has those values. And especially when there is a clash, and this is how I personally see it, and because this is how I function a lot, of guided by this ethicals and integrity. And also this ethics and integrity can be different between cultures, and we each have our own. And if you are a very values oriented person, those clashes can happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's always like that, right? Like, also, I mean, in general, every person has their different values, and so, but I do get what you mean, right? Some things are just kind of on a bigger scale, maybe, or I don't know. I don't even know what to say about it. But yes, we are all different. But the most important, right, is to respect each other and to
exactly.
And also to understand, right? Like, not everyone is for everyone, and that's fine.
Absolutely, yes.
That's another point. Now, when thinking about, I mean, this is obviously the move, right, from Portugal to Switzerland has been huge, right? And of course it
Yes.
has affected in general all your life. But now when thinking maybe about just professional life, right, and your career in finance and everything, what would you say were maybe some turning points, life-changing points for you in your career?
You mean in my career before I moved to Switzerland, or already within Switzerland?
Overall, whatever comes to your mind, it was like a, a changing point, something that, was a big learning for you, and then something that changed you as a person, right, to the better.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so on a professional level, one of the turning points was definitely I worked for 8 years in a big multinational company in Portugal, and I really enjoyed that job. Me and many of the people who work there.
Mm-hmm.
But then, restructuring, and we all lost our jobs. And that was one of the important turning points, because after that, I couldn't find a similar job in Portugal.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
So that is why I started looking abroad and see what else was out there, because I could not find something similar to that. And that's really the style I enjoy, working in multinational company with and doing specialized work.
Mm-hmm.
When it's larger companies, what you do is more specialized.
Mm-hmm.
And then things started to change. And at this time, we were talking about 2010, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of change in Portugal, a lot of companies, a lot of startups moving in.
Mm-hmm.
I tried the work at a startup over there, and it was quite difficult. It was really okay. No, after my experience, no, this is not what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I tried to move to. I moved to Switzerland when I got this job opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, then I realized it had some similarities to what I was looking for, but there were some other things that were quite different as well.
Mm-hmm.
Not only with the work, because with the work I got to learn a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But of course, with the culture and the methodology and the way of working, yes, it was quite different. Yes.
Mm-hmm. 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 All right. So, I mean, you see how basically, I mean, from what I'm understanding, right, you flipped, obviously, you got laid off, right? But you flipped it in terms of you couldn't find a job in Portugal. So what else can I do, right? Finding another.
Exactly. And after working 8 years in that setting and gaining all that experience, and I see, okay, this is what I want.
Yeah.
I want to continue with this. And then I didn't find something that was similar. So, okay, let me look elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Finding the way, right? Like if one thing doesn't work, what else can I do, right? Instead
Yes,
of
exactly.
It's not working or whatever, right? This all blaming, complaining won't bring us forward.
Yes,
right?
Yes, and there are sometimes things that, of course, we were saying on Wednesday. Sometimes you have to do what you have to do. You need to work. You need to work for a living, and sometimes you have to maybe, or at least temporarily, settle with a job that is not something that you really like.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I find that in my case, I need to at least like it, or some aspects of it. I cannot even perform if I am put in a setting that I don't like what I'm doing at all.
Mm-hmm. At least some part has to be, right?
Yes, something. There has to be something, and there has to be an objective why I am doing this job. For example, this job that I got in Switzerland while I moved. Yes, it was very difficult with the adaptation and all of that. And plus, you are alone in a foreign country, you are adapting, no family, no close friends. It's difficult during this period. And plus, with a new job, which is quite challenging.
Yeah.
But you learn a lot. And this job, which I can say, yes, there were good things and bad things. And if I am to choose in terms of preference, of course, the job I had in Portugal, I would prefer it, absolutely. But there was an objective. in this job that I had here in Switzerland. There was an objective to it.
Yeah. And I think
it helped, yes.
And exactly, right? Like having the objective, having this goal in mind, you know that even, for example, something that you are doing now that it's probably or potentially not optimal, not ideal, but you have a bigger goal in mind and you know that you are going to go over it. It's a temporary thing, right? It's not forever.
Yes.
That's also...
Well, in this case, in this previous job that I had here in Switzerland, it was temporary for 8 years. So it was
almost forever.
Yes, no, but it was overall a very valuable work experience. That no doubt. Then after all those 8-9 years here in Switzerland, now I'm lucky to at least I found a job that is more in line to what I'm looking for since 10 years. So now, yes, it took a while, but I think I'm on the good path, so to say.
Yeah, and also, right, like when you reflect on all the growth and everything that you gained throughout all these years, even though it might not have been what you really wanted, still you are very different also person to what you have like been, right, like 10 years ago. So that's
yes, absolutely. And although I realized that as we spoke initially, there were things that I could have, instead of struggling maybe for 8 years, I could have learned more and make it a little less difficult for me and learn it certain things faster and make it less challenging. There are many things I could have handled differently and which would have helped, but I think this is all part of the learning process.
But I always like, of course we all catch ourselves saying this, I wish I had done this, blah blah blah. But what we spoke one actually of the master class is what we said, you did the best you could have done in the moment, right? And now it's easy to be, I would have done this.
Yes, in the moment with what I had and with what I knew at the moment.
Exactly.
I have to be honest, I didn't know better.
Yeah, that's a trick. Well, you should come to Iceland, then we speak about the weather. Even though we are now on the way to have 24-hour daylight. So
yes, I would love that. I would love to experience that. I'm a daylight person.
All right. So
yes.
A flight away.
Yes, I would love it.
So Silvia, now talking about this, I wish I had known, etc. Right? So if you could go back in time, what would be something you wish you knew, right? Like an advice you would give to a younger self?
If you want to move country, one of the things, get to at least learn the language a little and the culture, speak with people, try and speak with people who live there, try to speak with locals or with people who know the culture more deeply. Because not only, and this is another thing that we realize within the countries, one thing is the culture, the people when you speak with your neighbors or when you go outside, and other thing is the working culture, which can be completely different. And it would be more try to dig deeper and know exactly what is the culture, what they expect from a new joiner, how can we accommodate that, and how can we compromise so that it's good for both parts. Because of course you also don't want to compromise in a way that it's in the end it's going to be bad for you. So yes, that would be a very important part of the learning that I would do, and especially without international experience whatsoever, that's important.
Do your research, right?
Do your research and try to connect with people. And as we say, in a work context, nobody needs to be best buddies. It's all about mutual respect with each other, and I would say knowing where you stand, respect yourself, and also respect the other person. Yes.
Respect is absolutely up 100%, of course, right? And also knowing that when you are going to another country, right, when you are a foreigner in that country, it's also important to respect the country and the culture and the rules and regulations, etc. Right? It's normal. You cannot expect now I'm there and now the whole country will turn because of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
I mean, it's okay, getting to know. And on the other side, right, like life experience wise, is there anything you wish you knew before, again, that could have helped you throughout your journey so far?
Life experience is the communication. Definitely be more open and sometimes less and more assertive in the communication sometimes. Because well, some of us, some of us are more in the introvert side, or there's more extroverted. I have always been more of the introvert side, but now, maybe it's an age thing. I think now I have less trouble speaking.
Yeah, I also find like that older we get, somehow in a way less filter do we have it.
Less filter, exactly. Yes.
Like it's, but still, of course, always from a very respectful point of view. That's a very important thing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. All right, Silvia, thank you so much. I mean,
Thank you.
I think that, I mean, I had myself moved 4 times in throughout my life, different countries, etc. And I know it's a big thing, and I really appreciate you sharing your experience with us. It's a lot of amazing, valuable things. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Just before I let you go, what is something on your mind maybe that at this point you can offer to the members of the group, or something that you ask the members from the group as support? Anything on your mind?
Well, maybe I can only think of this topic that we have been speaking. If anyone is thinking about changing the country, I can provide some helpful tips from experience. Or yes, or if you are if someone is in the more or less in the beginning of the career, for example, how to maybe arrange your resume, or how to sell yourself a little. Because I've had quite some interviews more or less recently, so I got to know how things work these days.
Okay, that's always valuable, right? And there will always be applying for jobs and interviewing and CVs, and so definitely.
And it's so interesting, if I may just do it's so interesting how this process changed in about 20 years. It's so different.
I actually had the previous guest speaker that I spoke with. We were talking exactly about that, how the recruitment process has changed, right? It was shocking, right? Especially if you are working for a company for a very long number of years, you're kind of used to everything, and then you go out on the market and you're like, what?
Yes. And it's really a big start over. Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, and this is something I could provide some tips as well, because this is exactly the experience I had, and I had this experience twice in my life. So yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna put the link to your LinkedIn profile below this video, or above, whatever, right, in the post, so then that members can definitely feel free to reach out to you and connect with you.
Yes.
And yeah, feel free to exchange.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Silvia. It was so nice. And I'll see you in the mastermind then.
Yes. Oh, you'll definitely see me. Yes.
Thank you once again. Speak soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Speak soon. Bye.